3, 2, 1, you are total rock star.
Thank you, love. Hello, welcome. This is day 26, wow, of 33 days with me, Jelelle Awen, in this series of Metamorphosis. And I'm feeling this, that there's only so many of these days left. And it's been even an amazing journey for me to be filming these and to show up every morning, comb my hair and put on a little makeup and get in front of the camera. And it's been amazing to feel actually how much teaching and sharing there is about soulful heart. You know, this is kind of just how I've been living my life for so many years, and so intimately with Raphael especially, that I don't always get outside of it to really see what it is and how deep it goes and how many layers of it there are, and how much it offers. And I get obviously a feeling of that in session space with people when I feel things open out for them, and I see the deepenings, and I feel the parts coming out and the connections that they're making that they've never made before, that are all coming from them. So I think one of the pieces I love the most about Soulful Heart is it's a self-empowerment process. It's really generated from within you. And as a facilitator, we're here to guide, to support, to direct, to feel the parts when they drop in, as we call it, to provide our materials from this library of writings that we've done and all these videos we've done. So we are almost like a librarian in those moments, and a cheerleader in other moments, but definitely the engine of the process comes from you. So it's your realizations and your discoveries that fuel the whole thing. And in that way, it's something that you can never lose, and you can take with you even after if you decided to stop sessions. And it infuses into your everyday life. So it's not just a one-off healer session or a therapy session that you go to. It really weaves in and is meant to weave in with your life. And I just find all of those things really beautiful about it. And I think I'm celebrating it too, because we just had a facilitant of mine named Colleen come and stay with us for a week. And it was such an immersive experience for all of us. The ups and downs, the tears and the joys, and it really showed me the breadth and depth of this process and this way of life. And one of the last things she said to me before she left yesterday was, I really love who you are on video and who you are in your writing, Jelelle, is who you are in your life. And now I've seen that. I've seen your daily life living out. I've seen you interact with Raphael and others in the community, and you're the same. And that, excuse me, it's very touching to me, because that's very important to me, that I so-called walk my talk, that I am the same version of me that you feel here that I am when I wake up at 6 in the morning. Maybe a bit more subdued, right? My energy might be lower. But that there's not a disintegrity here, or a lack of being transparent with you, or that there's something big that I'm hiding about my life, that I'm telling you one thing, but I'm living something else. I kept saying to Colleen, when we would talk about this, and other teachers and healers that may have these incongruities going on, that it just would be too much energy for me at this point to pretend to be anything other than who I am. It just would be too much effort, and I just don't think I have the parts anymore. I don't have a part of me that can put on a mask or a persona. even though I let different, I can let some more divine energies come in different moments. Going to the beach calls something out of me differently than doing an all-day energy session. But at the core of it is me. And I don't want to lose me, right? I love me, so I don't want to be a different me. If somebody else is around, then I don't get to experience myself in different settings. So this I believe this connects to what I wanted to talk about today, which is also a piece that I wrote yesterday that's getting, some response and people are commenting on it. And basically the writing was about, I was just skimming something, a website, and someone had said, actually I'll read it. This is paraphrasing, but this was the general sense of what they were offering. Ego death is an ongoing battle, a constant war from within that you must be vigilant about. So I talked about, the ego death, first of all, is it just has this energy to it. And this is not about picking on the words that they used as much as identifying an energy that I feel is really pervasive in spirituality. I've been in these circles for quite a while, and I felt this a lot of times. This also can apply to how people feel about their minds. So they can call it monkey mind, they can call killing the mind, chasing the mind, words like annihilating the ego, or ego obliteration. I think these are pretty common terms. Yet notice that they all have battle tones to them. They're all about going to war in some form or another. They're about being vigilant against something else. And this something else is inside of you. So basically they're saying, track your ego, feel your ego, and then kill it. Whoa. So it reverberated through my entire body. I didn't even read the rest of the article. That was the only line I saw. And outpoured this writing about ending the battles from inside. And the way that you end battles from inside yourself is to feel the parts that go to battle. So there's different frequencies inside of us. One that we identify, I've talked a lot about the protector in this series, and that's definitely one of them. The protector doesn't often go to battle in the same way inside as it does use different weapons at times. Often those weapons are having to do with shielding or protecting or guarding. But really, we're speaking of an energy that we call the inner punisher. And I call it punisher, not critic, because usually in that beginning energy, it's quite punishing. And often we're not even aware of it. It's almost the silent, I don't want to say killer, but that sounds so violent, but it's the silent suppressor often inside of us until we really start tracking it. And then we start really getting how prevalent the energy is inside of us. I just want to acknowledge there's a lot of dog barking this morning, so I'll just say hi to the dogs and maybe they'll be quiet. Thank you for your patience as we film the series. I'm in Mexico. My housing doesn't have soundproofing. That's not the kind of housing it is here. So the neighborhood dogs I can't really do anything about. So thank you for your patience throughout the series with that. I know it can be distracting at times. Maybe my next series I'll be in a nice studio or something. Who knows? So anyway, the inner punisher is really created. It's an energy created out of the judgmental frequencies, the comparing this to that happens in 3D reality. It's the dualism that we're conditioned into, the black and white, the good against evil, And for most of us, those energies are really strong in our caregivers. There seems to almost be two kinds of people, two kinds of punishers, and then some that float in between. Punishers either going outward primarily, focused on judging, punishing those outside, and then there's those that are more introverted, that the punishment and the judgment turns inward. And then there's those that float in between. They kind of do both. They do an outward and an inward, and they happen kind of at the same time. And if you grew up with parents that were quite outwardly critical of you, not just critical, but punishing, this could show up in literal punishing you, like grounding you, or even physical abuse, then it often seems to be that the punisher is then internalized and turned inward. And what happens is a really strong punishing voice, a judging voice. You're nothing. You're not worth anything. You can't do anything. You're not valuable. I mean, it's on and on. Using the body to judge the body, to suppress desire. Judging, taking things from the past, mistakes, and looping them so that shame comes up. And shame is usually actually another part. Another part is feeling shame, such as the inner teenager or the inner child, a more innocent part. So the punisher, so here the punisher and the younger parts often have a relationship where the punisher is doing this. And I'm talking all about inside right now. The punisher's doing this, and then the inner teenager, inner child just like collapses. Just flares up shame. And I've seen this happen so many times in people over the years. It's a common dynamic. I almost want to say every single person, but I can't know that, so I won't say that. But this punisher shame dynamic, if this could heal, we would be living in a very different world. So I really want you to take this into your heart today and feel it for yourself and feel how this plays out for you. Maybe you have a very obvious dynamic of this, or maybe it's more subtle. But if you can feel the punishing energy as a separate part of you, and then the corresponding shame as a younger part of you, this was the same dynamic you experienced with your parents. So when an outward punishment came towards you, there was your inner child or inner teenager that flared up in shame, where you just felt wrong for being. It doesn't seem to really matter what the situations are or the conditions were for this. It's just a feeling tone of you are wrong and you deserve to be punished. And then that feeling tone just pervades our being. It's just, I felt it when I felt it in myself over many years of healing it. I felt like it lived in every cell in my being. And of course, there's this life, 3D wounding around this, but then this can live very deep in our metasoul as well. There can be a lot of timelines where we're playing out karma that's connected to the punisher-shame dynamic, either in punishing others outward, abuse of others, or an inward frequency, or both. There is both. It's just that I notice that people tend to go to one or the other. Usually souls that are drawn to soulful heart are the ones that go inward. And this punisher-shame dynamic, I believe, is one of the main reasons for introversion. I really do. I don't think, actually, that some people are introverts and some people are just extroverts. I think there's a lot of different layers and dynamics going on there, and that's a oversimplification. And when we look at introversion, there can also be a lot of phasical reasons for that in terms of awakening. Some people going through a lone wolf phase, for example, where they've given up a lot of relationships and they need to be alone. Anyway, if you tend toward introversion, one of the things you might look at is what's going on with your punisher-shame dynamic. We also call this a suffering loop. A suffering loop is anything that's going on between a part inside, and there's usually another part, there's usually two parts involved, in which it's a repeating loop that causes pain, that causes suffering. So this is different than just feeling pain and letting it move through you. This is a repeated looping that makes you feel, makes parts of you feel bad, essentially. And the main reason for this is to keep you safe. So I know that so many souls are awakening to their gifts, and even if they don't know what their gifts, maybe you don't know what your gifts really are, but you're definitely feeling this desire to serve and to get out there and to step in and step out. But I can promise you, if there's hesitation in doing that, if there's resistance to doing that, you can look in to the punisher-shame dynamic going on inside of you. That, again, can be subtle. It could be a messaging that you're not a good writer, or you don't have anything worthwhile to offer, you don't have anything new to offer. Remember that time in school when everybody laughed at you when you tried to give a report? Remember when you tried to serve somebody and it went really bad? That's the voice of the Punisher. And as the Punisher's talking, again, there's another energy, an inner child or inner teenager going, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I'm not worthy of doing this. Oh, I can't do this. And so the collapse happens, and the suppression. And as the suppressed energy happens, you can't be in your bigness. You can't serve from there. So basically the Punisher has done its job in that moment. So there's that, and then I want to talk about what the Punisher actually is. Because I don't certainly want to go to battle with the Punisher either. The whole point of this is the no more battles, right? So if you can feel this Punisher-shame dynamic, also feel the gifts that your Punisher has. That if it wasn't so occupied with suppressing energies and making life safe, that it could actually become a very powerful source of discernment for you, and of intuition, and of guidance, and of setting boundaries. So discernment is different than judgment and punishment. Discernment doesn't have those frequencies. Discernment has love. And we need to discern. We need to be able to feel this from that. When I'm serving somebody in session space, I need to be able to discern what they're telling me is going on in their life, and then how would Soulful Heart approach that? How would we feel about that? I need to be able to discern this part from that part. But I often have people tell me, I don't feel any judgment from you, Jelelle. I don't feel any punishment from you, basically. Whereas I do hear from people that they will go to healers and they will feel a lot of judgment. Or a coldness, that's a removed coldness. Or even people have told me they've been laughed at by healers. And that laughing at, that scorn, that mocking is all Punisher. So it's like the intuition and the guidance that comes through, if it's filtered through a Punisher, that's an unhealed Punisher, this is what you're going to feel. So you're going to feel that in yourself, and you may feel that from others as well. Because of the work I've done over many years with various Punisher aspects of myself, I don't have that filter of Punisher anymore. I think it's something that we're all working on, and may be for the rest of our lives, because of how conditioned we've been to this energy, how contentious and judgmental our 3D culture really is. So I'm moving more into discernment and into invitation rather than contention. Contention in its very nature has a Punisher tone in it, and not love. So discernment is important, and as the Punisher gets felt and it starts relaxing, it turns into that frequency. It also turns into wisdom. So I'll be thanked by people for my wisdom. And that is in some aspect my healed Punisher that's helping with all of that. It's just, again, that the Punisher energies, the going to battle energies, have shifted from inside so that I can be different about it on the outside. And people talk so much about forgiveness and compassion toward other people, don't judge, but I believe that that's impossible to embody with other people if it hasn't been embodied from inside. It's that inside embracement of all aspects of you, including the Punisher, the compassion, the self-compassion, and the self-forgiveness that allows you to extend that toward others, that allows you to feel that way toward others. And without that, there's no overflow. There may be a strategy toward being forgiving or compassionate. You may be working at it, but an authentic forgiveness and compassion comes because that's what you've experienced on the inside. That's what you know about your inner reality. And so you can offer it to other people. Because of the things I felt inside of myself, for example, especially around body self-image and physical worthiness, because we're just so conditioned, especially as women, to punish ourselves related to that. This is also what we inherit from our mothers often, who have that same dynamic going on inside of themselves. Because I've worked that so much inside of me, with parts of me, then I can offer that to women. And it shows up as an unself-consciousness about my appearance. And it's not that I don't care about my appearance. I can discern, what's my hair looking like and what outfit goes with what. But there's not the same litany of judgment, of self-judgment. And I know this one because for most of my life I had that. When that started to heal, and I was with a partner that could reflect that self-acceptance in Raphael, who just adores my physicality. Not just my mind and my soul and my heart, but my body too. And that was important, that I be with a mate that reflected that. That's really changed the way I can feel about other women's bodies and other people as well. So this feels like a key thing to me in terms of, and when we talk about ego, I just want to say as a quick note, we feel the ego is these parts that have developed, and people kind of lump it together as ego, and we don't use the word ego in Soulful Heart only because there's so much connotation associated with it, that using the word ego, people immediately get their own ideas about what that means. So sometimes you have to use new words and new ways of describing something. And so we look at how the ego shows up as a protector, how it shows up as a punisher, how it shows up as a teenager. And basically we awaken the ego. It becomes more conscious, it vibrates much higher. So it's not about obliterating it as much as it is awakening it and having it vibrate higher and higher as these emotional wounds and traumas are digested. So we don't see an ego death and we don't see an ego battle. We see loving the aspects of the ego because we wouldn't have made it through 3D life without it. So it's not an enemy, it becomes more and more an ally. And that pretty much sums up the whole process. Inside and outside, moving from enemy to ally. So, thank you for taking this in today. I think it's a really important piece of the whole process, and I know that Gabriel and Kalena are going to be doing a video soon about the inner Punisher as well, and it is a part that we work with in Soulful Heart too. So just see how this feels to you and how it would be to love this part of yourself, and how loving it rather than battling it is what allows it to change. So thank you, and I will see you in the next video.